listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. That's right, live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media networks. Like, share, subscribe, live at 9 p.m. We love all the love and support. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian. And Keith looks a little wicked.
I got coffee.
Something wicked this way comes.
Every day.
It kind of looks like Keith might start turning into something. Is the moon full?
It is the weekend of Halloween. Right before Halloween.
He does look like Wolfman Jack.
Ooh, the hair does, yes. Sells it very well. What do you mean? Wait, it's not the weekend right before Halloween.
I think so.
We got one more.
We got 2
weekend.
weeks left.
No, I said the full moon is the weekend before.
Oh, yeah.
The weekend, like that
gotcha.
weekend,
Okay.
like literally right before is
Yes.
is a full moon.
Is it going to be a red moon?
Oh, that I
Red
don't
full
think
moon?
so, but it is a full moon.
He
I
gets
don't know if it's a red
wolfier.
moon.
That's a terrible line from Silver Bullet. but
Wolfier?
He
He
gets
gets
wolfier.
wolfier.
I always thought it was wolfier, like wolf fear, and like that was a term.
You
or
always
something.
thought like save your pity for the week, and you just thought,
I was like, he's saving it for the week.
yeah, not like that.
No, 7 days.
Yeah, he's saving it for the week,
And he'll have something to buy some. I don't know. I don't know what pity buys.
Yeah, but pity
Sadness.
You save your pity up, and you can buy something during the
You
week.
can buy yourself some sadness.
Save your pity for the week.
And the Chan is not my son.
The Chan is not my son.
That's right. But no, I look. I want to be careful because Keith, you do have the long hair. You know, when the moon gets full, we know how you are. You, of course, would know the date of the full moon because, well, we don't know what happens to you when it's this time of the year. And
I saw him eating kibble in the kitchen earlier while
No,
you weren't watching.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's serious. I eat kibble all the time.
And the bits.
It's delicious.
Did you leave enough for my dog?
She got the yogurt.
I let her have the yogurt.
Okay. Okay. Just
Sometimes
Sean,
I tour the Irish countryside and like things happen.
Sean,
Sit in the back of a theater
Just,
and ghosts talk to me. I mean,
keep watch over there. Just be on the lookout.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be on this side of the table with him.
That's what I'm saying. Who knows when it's gonna.
There's a lot of technology between you and him. There's not that much between.
I've got a pumpkin in between me and him.
Yeah, fake one at that.
Yeah.
I like pumpkins.
It's paper mache.
It
might be
I don't know
foam.
what it is, foam. Yeah, I think that's just a fake plug.
called
Yeah, we've already got
Hollywood magic.
our Halloween decorations are up.
Yeah, we're getting them
Yeah.
out there. We're getting ready for the big holiday coming up
Yep, they're up.
and the full moon.
Full moon's coming.
Who knows what happens with red moon?
Things happen. I eat kibbles and bits, and sometimes I scratch myself. I mean,
I mean, honestly, we all
Behind
know
the
that.
ears
behind the ears.
with your foot.
Like, Sean, I really want
I
you
want
to
to see him do that.
let me know if he starts licking somewhere. Okay, just,
Sometimes you gotta lick yourself.
you know.
You know how dogs lick you under the table?
Ooh,
Keith does that too.
Whoa!
who knows what's gonna happen when we come back from our review this week?
I'm not going to
Oh,
tell.
no.
I might be under the table.
Oh no, we got 2 reviews this week.
We do. We're back
We got-
to 2.
hold
We only
on.
had the one last week.
I started off joking, but there's a lot of some sad news. Well, two bits of sad news
There
I
is
want to
some
get
sad
out of the
news,
way.
yeah.
There's not much to talk about, but then there's one thing that we can kind of end on an upward note before we get into our reviews.
And an upward note.
An upward note,
Yeah.
upward inflection, upward. No, the sad bit of news. It's terrible. I'm laughing and smiling.
Quit laughing.
I can't go into sad
One of these days
news.
you're gonna die laughing.
I can't go into sad news when I'm laughing. All right,
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick, somber note. Suzanne Summers passed away at 76 this past week. Her long battle with breast cancer ended, and unfortunately, it was just a sad day simply because she is a figure that has been with us for many decades now. And
Yeah.
obviously, we were throwing around the proverbial, and I think she would find it funny. Thigh Master joke.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. She became known for that long after her, Three's Company days, and even
See, that's why I went back to she's with John Ritter now. We'll make it old school.
They were in Three's Company together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you did make that joke earlier.
I just can't believe her name is Summers and she died in the fall like that.
She died a day before her birthday. That's what was really sad.
Dang,
Yeah.
that is sad.
I think she had said she was going to be 77. So
Well,
Who was
she
the-
was 76.
Who was
Yeah.
the other one that?
I didn't hear you say that was when she died. Yeah.
Who was
My
the other
bad.
one that died like right before their?
Oh, Betty White.
They were going to
Yes.
turn like 100.
She was like a week away.
She was a week away from
being
turning
100.
100.
Yeah.
Well, or no,
Yeah.
was it that, or was it just that she was literally died on New Year's Eve? She was going to make it to the new year and died on New Year's Eve. But I think it was the day. I thought that was the day before her 100th birthday.
I don't know
I
because
thought she
people were
was
making
getting
jokes
ready to
about
turn 100.
closest to 100
Like she
without
can
going
make it to
over.
100.
Yeah,
yeah.
yes.
So maybe it was the
no,
day
that
before.
was Bob Barker making that joke.
No, but
Closest to 100 without going
Yeah,
over.
but they said that with Betty White first, and then with because they said that she still beat him. I think as far as being closer to
I
100.
thought he was 99 too.
He was, but that's what they
Okay.
were saying. Is I think she was closer to the 100 than he was.
All I know is that we lost the gym with Betty White.
Yeah.
Since then, it's just been downhill.
Oh, it's been way
A
downhill.
lot of the celebrities that have gone, not the good ones. The good ones we want to go. And when I say good ones, it means be good that they're
The good
gone.
ones are going. The ones that we wish
Yeah.
would go don't.
Right.
Yes.
Like Alec Baldwin.
I'm not there yet.
I know.
Alec
That's
Baldwin's
the,
he's taking people out
Yeah.
before he goes.
That's the up news. Yeah, we'll get there. Other sad.
The other sad
yeah.
news is kind of learned a little bit more about Bruce Willis, and that he is pretty much incommunicative.
Yeah.
That
I've
he.
never heard that word until I read that article. But there you go.
I was afraid to say it on here because I
Yeah.
didn't know if I was going to butcher it.
Incommunicative.
There you go. That sounds good to
He's
me.
now nonverbal.
That's true.
That would have been a better way, an easier way to say it. Because there's probably people out there who would say it like that, and then they're like, "What does that even mean?"
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Incommunicado.
His
He's missing.
That's John Wick.
sadly, has progressed further, and of course, I mean, with the illness that he has. So
We knew
it
that he was
definitely-
suffering from dementia, and it's gotten worse to the point where
Aphasia.
aphasia. Yeah, he
Yeah.
has aphasia.
Oh, I thought the article that we sent it said, is aphasia a form of dementia?
It may be.
I think it causes
Because it said
dementia.
frontal. I pull up
Neurodegenerative disorder, frontotemporal dementia.
There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think aphasia causes that though, so it's still like a
He was,
symptom.
yeah,
of
he
his
was diagnosed
disease.
with aphasia.
But ultimately, he is now at the point where he, I don't think, can no longer read or communicate verbally at all. Very sad to see, especially from such an iconic actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone who apparently, according to this, was from the creator of the Moonlighting series
Yeah,
from
Moonlighting.
back when. One of the first TV shows that he got his start in that really blew up his name, and the fact that he says, he's still good friends and close with Bruce Willis, and for someone who really loved to explore life and take it all in and just never leave an ounce of it unexplored.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he also was a very avid reader and he read a lot, which he said he didn't really like a lot of people to know that. Don't know why.
Yeah.
I guess maybe for the tough kind of
Well,
character
he's got that
he is.
action. Yeah, I
Yep.
guess he wanted to keep the persona
And
of being that action star.
I mean, I've told you all the story a couple of times, but I met the guy, at the bowling alley or whatever, and that's he had that. He was
Bruce Willis.
yeah.
What you see
But I
him
mean,
as in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, he had just gotten done being the guy from Pulp Fiction. I can't remember what his name was in that movie.
yeah.
He was a boxer in the movie.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That he was just.
But
in
yeah,
Pulp
he
Fiction.
had just done that. So his head was clean shaved, and he even had that brown leather jacket and everything, like he
Wow.
wore in the movie. Like it was,
Wow.
yeah.
just even almost like it just fit that character
Yeah.
to a T. But
Yeah.
I mean, nice guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And it's just sad because you see the roles he's been in, but also I'm thankful that there is that nobody's trying to find videos of what how he communicates now or how he's
Yeah, they're
acting.
not trying to expose
Exploit that
and exploit.
I don't know how new the videos were, but I did see some TikTok videos of him with, I guess some of his younger kids.
Yes.
And they kind of were dancing and stuff like that. But obviously he couldn't, he wasn't speaking, but I mean, he could smile and he was dancing with her in a
Yeah.
TikTok video. I think it was
And
fairly
that's-
recent.
That's if anything,
it's-
that's
yeah.
how we want to remember him.
Yeah.
That's how we want to remember the star that he was. I mean, obviously much more known for his acting career.
Yeah.
And, you know, it
But
seemed
also
like he
knowing
wanted
that
to
it's
keep...
been cut short because of the disease,
Yeah.
which is tragic too.
I mean, especially after this past week hearing some more sad news. But again, very, you know, it's the kind of news that you're like, well done, good job. And that was Michael Caine retiring.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, he's 90 years old.
Yeah.
It's like,
Sir
yes, absolutely.
Michael Caine.
Yes, Sir Michael Caine.
And I mean that I won't lie, that does sadden me too. But at least it's one of those things where
You got years to enjoy
after a while you do
life.
have to, and at least that it's one of those things where he's retiring by his own, like on his own
Yes.
accord. It's not like something like Bruce Willis where he
A
can't do
debilitating
the-
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where he got to choose. Okay, I'm done. I've gotten older, and I mean, I'm glad that he gets to
And look-
live out the rest of his years how he wants.
He's one of those kind of people where I'm almost assuredly believe he would have been like, I didn't work a day in my life.
Yeah.
I enjoyed what I did. You know, yes, I'm getting to that age now where it's becoming more troublesome, and maybe I just want to sit on a beach.
Yeah.
on,
And part of me
somewhere.
feels that's
Great,
part of
do
it too. Is at his age, he's probably just tired of all the politicking you have to do in Hollywood, and
Yeah.
he's probably just like, I'm done. It's time to bow out.
Yeah. But well done for him. And so we that was a little bit of a happy note, you know, ending with Michael Caine, and then of course the upward
No.
is that it looks like maybe just maybe Alec Baldwin ain't getting away with what he thought he was getting away with.
We don't know yet, but they have been some word that maybe they're going to reopen this case. So
I think he's a murderer. I think he
for sure.
at least manslaughter.
Yeah, manslaughter.
Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't deserve murder, but it is manslaughter.
And
it
at
is.
least if those are the charges that they will probably prosecute him with, I am all for it. Absolutely bring it. I think the DA who brought it originally, or, you know, obviously it seemed like they were shooting way overboard with what accusations they were throwing around and promising too much to try to make a name for the DA at the time. I don't know if she stepped aside or gotten better counsel or what it is. But all I can say is that, yes, if they can bring charges against Alec Baldwin and we can bring justice to him, if anything, he absolutely deserves some kind of time for having ended a woman's life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. No amount of celebrity status or fame gets you out of that.
It was on this afternoon. I was listening to Terry Miners, and he had some audio recordings of when they broke the news to Alec Baldwin that she had died, because she didn't die. I don't think they're on set. Like they did take her to the hospital.
He wasn't sure
And
yet.
then so somebody from his crew informed him that she didn't make it, and like even in the audio recording of his reaction,
Wow.
it's acting. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you watch movies as much as we do, you know when
You can
someone,
tell.
and it was just like this, this, like, I mean, it was like you can just hear it, that it was just false.
The guy is so full of it.
Yeah.
And every time I hear him open his mouth, I just can't. It's been like that for years. And then, of course, this just was the cherry on top. It's sad to say that just he has no redemption in my mind. You know, hey, that's between him and God. And he can forgive him because at the end of the day, it's like Alec Baldwin is just a piece of human trash. Oh, it's working
Yeah.
again. Oh, man. Our soundboard's back.
Got them both in there.
No,
right.
but we do have a great show planned. We got other headlines to get into. Those were a little bit. We just boom, boom, boom. That
Yeah.
was like fast.
shotgun them.
That's right. Bow. Whoa, no pun intended. Well, that was six.
Yeah,
That was a six
yeah.
shooter. But either way, we got two reviews to
do.
dive into. A big one on the block, if you want to call it that. It actually is flopping, and we went and saw it the second week it was out.
It's flopping hard.
And where you're about to hear our opinions of it, it's Exorcist Believer. Didn't make a believer out of us, I'll just say that. And then our second movie for the torture porn series happens to be a 2016 iconic cult favorite, which is Don't Breathe. So we're going to get into those two movies. Let's start out with the first one right off the bat, which is, yes, here is our review of Exorcist Believer.
On December 26, 1973, the world was introduced to what many still consider to be the scariest film ever made. Directed by William Friedman and based on the novel by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the film's screenplay, The Exorcist: A Day After Christmas would not only terrify, but test and force many to reevaluate their faith. Nominated for 10 Academy Awards and winning 2, The Exorcist examined the nature of true good versus evil through the ultimate sources of both, God and Satan, and the power of faith. Horrifying in every way, the film was more than gore and shock factor. Now, 50 years later, director David Gordon Green, alongside Danny McBride, the duo responsible for the latest Halloween requel trilogy, brings us another requel to one of the greatest horror films ever made, The Exorcist Believer. For those uninitiated, a requel is a reboot sequel, a film that acts as a direct sequel to a classic franchise that also hopes to reboot said franchise and take it in a new direction. Green and McBride attempted this with the Halloween franchise, offering a promising first film in 2018, only to falter with the subsequent sequels. The pair didn't even make it past the first movie in their planned Exorcist trilogy, however, as The Exorcist Believer may be the worst film in a franchise that never needed any sequels to begin with. Gone is any intellectual thought on faith, religion, Christianity, God, or the devil, and what we are left with is a film that is not only not scary in any way, but one that's story and characters are dull and lackluster, with themes explored in the blandest, most generic way possible. With no actual insight into faith, Green and McBride have crafted a film with a feel-good ending that offers moral platitudes about humanity coming together over our unique ability to hold hope. It destroys any idea of the power of faith by implying faith in anything is really all that matters. The film refuses to acknowledge any one religion or idea as true, while expecting its audience to still believe 2 girls traveled to hell and came back possessed. Hell can be real after all, but God can only be described as quote-unquote any holy beings. This destroys any credibility the film has as both a follow-up to the original and a film about exorcism, a deeply Catholic and Christian practice. The movie goes one step further by uniting a coalition of religious Avengers to come together. A voodoo priestess, a Protestant Christian leader, a failed nun who received an abortion, and a Catholic priest to exorcise the demons from 2 possessed girls. All to make a point that every theme in the original is wrong, apparently, because all humanity needs to conquer evil is each other. The Exorcist Believer just comes across as silly and poorly thought out from people who not only don't understand faith, but have none of their own. While it's obvious Green and McBride thought their ideas on faith were a modern springboard off the original movie, the modern aspect is the only thing they sadly got right, in so much as this is exactly what I'd expect modern Hollywood to think faith is. The themes in Believer in no way compare to the original, and the movie overall fails at horror, with the possessed girls being more of an afterthought to the story's need to justify how all forms of faith are valid. Believer has no real belief anywhere within its story. Just poorly thought out nonsense that undercuts the primal fear produced by the original. I give The Exorcist Believer 1 out of 4 stars.
Ooh, 1. Wow.
Terrible.
Not a believer in that one. Not a believer in... That's right, there it is. Not a believer in David Gordon Green at all.
Yeah,
They really have just... Look, I had some hope. I had some hope with
I did
the
too.
original Halloween,
The
and then what they were
2018
going to do with
version.
kills and ends, and then both of those steadily got worse. And now this one is just like you said in the review, starts this whole trilogy
right out of the gate.
off.
Yeah.
I didn't go in I didn't go in thinking, oh, based off the last 2 Halloweens, this is gonna be terrible. Like I still had a little bit of hope that based off of the 2018 Halloween, which was good, that maybe they would nail at least this first one the same way they nailed the first one of that trilogy. But then, like, almost right off the bat, like, it wasn't bad, but right off the bat, I could tell it didn't capture the tone or the atmosphere of the original movie, which was just so chilling. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, that was nominated for Academy Awards. Like, I'm not expecting David Gordon Green to be that good. But then as the movie kept going on, it went from okay to just absolute garbage.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I have no idea. Like, this is way worse than any of the Halloween movies he made, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I felt like it started with its own atmosphere that I liked, but maybe 30 or 45 minutes
I was
into
gonna
the
say,
movie is
around
when it
that
kind of
mark.
twisted. When after they find the girls, that's when it started to just go sideways for me. And
Yeah.
Completely.
yeah.
I was even interested in that. Like when the
Oh, when they
girls
find
go
her and find them in the
missing?
barn and all that, I thought, okay,
I was
okay,
like, what's going on
yeah,
here?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it was interesting, but then they immediately went south with regard to like how it picked up from there. It was almost like they spent too much time in the introductory,
Yeah.
But because they were kind of giving you this slow, like carrot on a stick, dangling it in front of you, and you're treating yourself, and then it was like it just hit the gas pedal, and it went off in so many different directions that you're just like, what is this movie?
I feel like they did, like you said, they spent a lot of time at the beginning of the movie trying to set up the relationship between. They didn't really care about the relationship of the little girl and the religious parents, but they did spend a lot of time on the relationship of the main characters. And I think the only reason they did that, though, wasn't to give you any kind of connection to them. It was just so that when she does start to show a change, you recognize, oh, well, that's completely opposite of how they were together at the beginning of the movie. Like, I felt like it wasn't there to make us really get invested in the father and the daughter. It was just there to show how drastic of a change she was after she's possessed.
Yeah, I feel like they really set up, like you said, those main characters, and I think like how they correlate to the a coalition of faith at the end. Like you had the very beginning in Haiti, so they could set up the voodoo.
Yeah.
And then you have him losing his faith.
Hoodoo?
You do. But
Remind me of the babe.
Yes. No, but it was one of these where, like, okay, they had to set that up, and the fact that he did believe in God, but then once the accident in Haiti happens, he no longer believes in God. And then you had to set up, here's the girl with the religious parents who go to, I read online it was supposed to be a Baptist church. That was unlike any Baptist church I've ever seen. I said in my review non-denominational because I'm not giving it a denomination.
Can I just nitpick that one real quick?
Nitpick the hell out of it.
If you're going to make a scene about any kind of religious service, the idea is that you pay as much respect to that as possible.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, they would have been picked apart and prodded with any other kind of religious background, whether it be Hindu or Buddhism.
Oh, yeah.
If it was Hollywood that was reviewing this and saying, oh, they got that wrong. But in Protestant religions, Protestant Christianity, they, of course, will get a pass because they don't care.
Yeah.
But it's like, it doesn't take anyone who's just a nominal believer to know that when you go to church, you don't do communion and then hear the sermon. Communion follows at the end of the service typically, or even towards the end before, I would say even in the Baptist church, before it's like a come up for a prayer request and a laying on of hands, and then you end the service. And it's like here, you literally see them do the communion, and then it cuts to a scene in the background where, of course, they have to have this whole ridiculous
desecrating
the body of Christ and the blood, and then all of a sudden she comes out and, of course, ruins and starts to interrupt service, and he's up there giving the sermon, and I'm just like, this is a little backwards here. Have you never been to a church? Because that's really what it reads like. It reads like as if you just don't understand the material you're even covering. It immediately sends up a red flag for anyone who's faithful or a viewer of this to immediately ridicule it based on that alone. And it's enough merit to ridicule it because if you watch the original, the one thing it gets right is not only the Catholic background. But it takes it very seriously. And I told Keith and even you outside the theater, Sean, I was like, the one problem I have with this movie and the reason why you won't hear any horror stories of, there are things happening on set that kept this movie from being made, or very eerie and the devil being involved, is because, no, the devil probably clapped the whole time this was being made as a laughable joke because, again, it doesn't take it seriously. And when it doesn't take the own content seriously, the audience also can look at it and just kind of be like, what is this garbage?
Yeah, there's no understanding of any faith in there. They could have focused on that single dad and his daughter and that relationship, and it could have contrasted the relationship of the single mom and her daughter from the original. They even get Bernstein to come back and reprise her role as McNeil. And it's funny because they don't do anything with her. It's like you bring her back from the original only for her to be in like maybe 15 minutes total of the entire movie and have no substantial, only to come in and blame the patriarch.
The patriarch.
The patriarch.
That's all it was.
Anytime you hear that anymore, it's
Yeah.
like that's such a modern phrase thrown around that you immediately know it's not only woke garbage, but also she's just an exposition dump.
Yeah, that's all she was.
She has I swear, there's like a solid 30-second monologue that she gives that explains exactly the direction of the movie. It's so bad they can't spoon feed it to you with actual good plot development or character development. They have to just tell you out blank.
But it also undermines the themes from the original because one, she's like, oh, I couldn't be in on the exorcism because of the patriarchy. He's like, no, one, she was a non-believer in the original until this happened. And two, she has no experience. It's like you could tell they have no understanding of people who actually have religious beliefs of any kind, not just Christian, because I mean they're all over the board.
Yeah.
And even as you said, it's funny because it's like with the communion. That was another thing that I was just like, one of the reasons why that works really well, I think, when you focus on a Catholic church, which they didn't focus on as much in this one, is they actually believe in transubstantiation, where it literally becomes the body and
the
blood
blood.
of Christ.
Yeah.
So for her to desecrate a Catholic communion, that would be extremely significant to them. Whereas the Baptist, it's
you're
not that it's
spilling
not
crackers and juice.
Yes, and, yes, and it's not that we wouldn't take offense to it. Of course we would. It's still the communion, but it's not the same.
You're right.
Yeah,
and it's like when it's those subtle details that you could tell you don't understand what you're making a movie about. That was why the original was so scary, because it did follow the actual ideals that Catholics believed, and the whole thing was centric on faith, because you had McNeil, who was a non-believer. You had the one priest or one father who had a crisis of faith, and then you had Max von Sydow, who did fully believe, and you had like these three representatives of non-believer, believer, and someone who's struggling with it. And you don't have anything like this at all. Even the father in this movie, who went from being a believer to a non-believer because of a tragic accident, nothing substantial comes from that. The only thing we get from the end is, well, as long as people have each other and hope. we could beat anything. I'm like, that's not faith at all.
And kind of going back to your patriarchy line and mentioning that, it's the same exact thing from this modern message. And that's the most humdrum, ridiculous part of the whole story, is it's such a movie filled with platitudes, a mile wide and an inch deep in terms of actual thought-provoking material. There isn't any. It's terrible. It's absolutely god-awful from any kind of standpoint of taking it seriously. You can't take it seriously. It doesn't take itself seriously. And how would you expect me to walk into the theater and respect this film when you don't take me seriously, whether I'm a believer or not? And that's the problem, is when you don't actually have any kind of focus and devotion to portraying the beliefs you're putting on film in any kind of discernible or serious way, then why should I respect you as a filmmaker that your film is any decent?
It wasn't even the lack of respect for the different religion, because I'm not gonna I don't believe in the voodoo and all that stuff, but I'm like, if somebody that does went to see this movie, you're not even doing that justice, really. No. So it wasn't even just that, though. It's if you're trying to unnerve people with the thought of demonic possession, I don't even think the children being possessed did that for me at all, because in the original film, she freaking walks down the stairs upside down, and her neck spins around, and she's crawling on the ceiling
spewing
green stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's like...
and this one she just spews out a portal to another galaxy.
Yeah, I'm like, but I mean, she's tied to a bed or a chair through the majority of it. There's no, her spider crawling around the room, or there's not really other than the voice changing, which is a trope among most exorcists. Most possession films. That was really it. Okay, her voice changes. Big whoop.
No, you're right.
They just didn't do anything to wow me or freak me out.
I 100% agree.
Absolutely. I mean, once we get to that part in the movie where there's even supposed to be, I wouldn't even call it an exorcism taking place, because it's just gobbledygook at that point, the moment you mention it, of what they're trying to do with all these people of some kind of faith. And that's really, I mean, again,
holy beings, all holy beings.
Again, it's so
all over
on the nose with that old saying of, if you don't believe in something, you fall for anything. If you don't believe, if you believe in anything, you fall. Or no,
you had it right the first time.
I had it right the first time. I'm butchering it, but no, it's you could easily apply that line to this film because they clearly were so taken aback by just the idea of what it could be.
Spiritual oneness,
right?
Is what I felt like they really.
That's what they wanted. That was really what they wanted to push.
And it's this kumbaya message that doesn't hit home,
but it didn't know it
because there's no severity.
It didn't even know if it wanted to do that. There's the cross. There's the Catholic priest comes in, and everybody else there sees him coming, and it's like their rallying cry to be serious and push harder with this exorcism. They did put Christianity, or at least some form of it, to the front, even though they were trying to do this all one God theory or whatever. It seemed like they kept rolling back to, oh well, it's the cross and the holy water that actually gets something started here.
Because it's
the crucifix, it's the priest, it's the words.
In only so much as it
even
draws a connection to the first movie.
Even the voodoo lady reads scripture and quotes the Bible,
right?
And it's like, well, wait a minute now, are you into, because voodoo's not in the Bible?
So
no, it's like, are you
the voodoo practitioners from New Orleans are like kind of rooted from some Catholic practices. They blend it, so.
It's just
good luck with that.
Yeah, but no, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't pay any kind of respect to any one particular kind of religious experience it's portraying. It's just kind of all over the place. It meanders. It shows you different. Again, you can't really draw anything from it that's rock solid as to a foundation that you're like, okay, this.
I do go to a Baptist church, and we do when we have communion, which is like once a quarter.
Yeah,
it's after the worship time and before the sermon.
It is normally.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, but at Valley Station, I believe we did communion at the end of the service, right before the invitation.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to. I mean,
and again, I think it's kind of different. But again, I will say too, like if that was supposed to be a Baptist preacher.
He was Joel Osteen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing too is his reaction to her desecrating the communion cup in the body and the blood, as she says it 1,000 times. His reaction is unreal. He stands there and just kind of in silence watches her, when I think any normal human being would have rushed down the stairs to be like, "Are you okay, sweetheart?"
Right.
The parents acted like their reaction to me was more of them being embarrassed about what their daughter was doing in front of the church and how it was making their family look in front of the church,
right?
And less about worry for their daughter's well-being.
And I actually don't think that was by mistake.
No.
No. They were supposed to be these white, pretentious Christians.
That's it. That's exactly what they were portraying. Again, going along with today's current message of the patriarchy and all of the different modern woke crap that you can apply to it, this film had it.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's lazy. It's using an IP of, I mean, I think you said it best in the review, of a movie that didn't need any sequels at all. The first one is iconic enough, and there's a reason why it's chilling, and it was nominated for 10 Academy Awards when it came out, and it still holds up well today. And again, to look no further than a film that actually does its job in not just providing a spooky, atmosphere and creepy and terrifying experience, but it is faithful to an actual, and again, it's based on a novel. It's based on, I think, something that takes the whole idea of an exorcism seriously. You don't get that at all in this film.
Yeah.
It's cheap. There's no jump scares. All of the, like you said, there's nothing interesting about the actual exorcism itself.
Even some of the stuff they talk about, like their feet being burned because they walked 3 days through hell and then came back possessed. I was like, that was the dumbest crap. I was like, I get the parallel they tried to make, but again, it was another moment where you could tell they've heard this from somewhere about scripture.
Well, and that's like, they can't articulate it other than just to say it.
You don't physically go to hell.
Yeah. Well, they talk about how
don't
Jesus
take your body with you. Jesus' body stayed there.
But it was like, but even still, when he descended, as they were saying, it wasn't because he just went to hell. It was again to claim victory over hell and be like, I own you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he went and spent 3 days in hell. So I was just like, I don't know.
But it just kills me because I'm just like, even that, I'm just, again,
like people who don't,
it has to be explained away.
Yeah.
They can't even show you a visual and make you comprehend it yourself of what they're trying to convey. They have to then say it in a line.
It's like, here's some pseudo-Christian scripture, and that's what happened. They burned their feet in hell.
Yeah,
just their feet, not the rest of their body.
Yeah, even when they say things, like when they quote the Bible, or when they say, like, there was one line where the I think the voodoo lady actually says like oh God. She says something about the lamb and the bleeding blood and water at the same time and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, first it was blood, then water.
Yeah.
But it was like, and then the nurse says the Lion of Judah, and she starts quoting all this stuff, and I'm like, you're just like taking things that you've heard from Christian music.
It's just platitudes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what it is. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's just
terrible.
It's garbage. It's not worth your time.
Let's talk about a good movie.
Yeah. Let's get rid of it. Let's put this in the past. Do not go see this movie. Don't support it. It's terrible. Alrighty, but we do have another movie review, our third in the torture porn series this month. Here is our review of Don't Breathe.
If it's Halloween, it must be Pandora. Sorry, I couldn't resist, but week 3 of our torture porn reviews will actually see us step away from the Saw franchise to review a movie starring Stephen Lang, who actually does have some decent acting chops when he's not fighting giant blue cat aliens. Don't Breathe, a horror film from 2016, didn't make major waves when it first released, but was well received and made a modest profit, grossing $150 million on a $10 million budget. Gaining cult status, Don't Breathe garnered a sequel with a possible third in discussion. While overlooked, many feel Don't Breathe was an underrated horror gem, and many reviewers and outlets have described it as a suspenseful thriller that dips into the torture porn genre. After watching it, I can say we probably wouldn't have picked this film to include as quote-unquote torture porn, though it does have one really disturbing scene that fits the subgenre. And it's for this scene alone, other critics have lumped the movie into the category. I'd argue the film is definitely a horror thriller. That said, despite the lack of gore, disturbing imagery, and torture, Don't Breathe is a suspenseful and often scary film. Centered around a group of teenagers who survive by breaking into houses and stealing from them, the trio gets more than they bargained for when they break into the home of a blind Gulf War veteran, played by Stephen Lang, in an attempt to steal the thousands of dollars he's received as a settlement for the death of his daughter, who was killed in a car accident. Don't Breathe is an interesting premise that pits delinquent teens against a retired vet, as his home soon becomes a death trap in which they struggle to escape the retribution of a man they wish to rob. The movie takes a strange turn, however, when it reveals the blind man is not exactly an innocent victim either, which is where my biggest gripes of the movie come from. Though the movie is well directed regarding its suspense and scares, director Federico Alvarez even went so far as to have all of his actors wear contacts that distorted their vision, not just Stephen Lang, whose character was blind. With actors legitimately stumbling in the dark because they couldn't see, the sense of claustrophobia while being blind and unable to escape creates some solid tension. Unfortunately, neither the protagonist nor antagonist are good people worth rooting for, which created the film's biggest conundrum. I could have gotten behind an innocent vet defending his home, even if he dispatches with the intruders in a grisly way. Or I could have gotten behind innocent teens trying to escape a pitch-black hellhouse owned by a sociopath. But by having both the killer and victims be bad people, it makes it harder to root for. While the film isn't exactly torture porn, it does share this one attribute with the Saw franchise, having victims and killers who are hard to root for. And while I thought Saw 10 handled this better, Don't Breathe just doesn't give me enough character depth to root for either side. Ultimately, I do like Don't Breathe enough to warrant me wanting to check out its sequel, but not enough that I felt it'll be a horror film I want to revisit over and over again. Stephen Lang does give a solid performance, and the tension is there, so it is worth at least a single visit. I give Don't Breathe 3 out of 4 stars.
Well, that's a little bit better than
Yeah.
Exorcist Believer. Just a tad
and
bit.
it's not a remake.
I
It's
mean,
something original.
imagine that.
That's true. It has a sequel that I do want to check out now, for sure.
Same. I'm in the same boat. Don't Breathe 2 came out in 2018.
I think that
Is
sounds
that is
about
that right? And this was 2016.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But no, I really was kind of surprised by this one. We were talking about it during the review a little bit, but very much, to me, one of my favorite parts that made this a cult, what I think will become a cult favorite and a cult classic, is the scene with the night vision.
Yes.
I thought it was shot really well, and you talk about it in the review about how they were actually given contact lenses that blurred their vision.
It made their eyes look like they were dilated.
Right, like they're really grasping to see.
But then, like, as they're filming,
acting,
they couldn't
see nothing.
I mean, they could see a little bit. They weren't completely blind, but yeah, it said it made it to where like it was hard for them to. So when they're reaching out trying to feel,
they're really trying to feel their way around. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And to me, the way it was shot with the night vision, almost as if they were like, no, let's do it. Let's do it in full pitch black.
Yeah.
Because normally what you see in a movie like that is they just really make it really dark and hard to see.
Stupid green night vision
or
goggles.
They do like, exactly.
Yeah.
To me, this made me remember like that brief scene in Silence of the Lambs when she can't see but he can.
Yeah.
And when he does his vision, it's more akin to this.
Yeah.
And he can just see her, and it's so creepy him watching her stumble around in the dark. And it's so good.
Well, when the camera gets further away from the old man and he disappears into the background.
Yes.
And you know that he's just kind of standing there waiting, but you can't see him.
Right.
Like, I thought that was really good.
I really, that everything in the basement, like I loved, especially the night vision scene was probably my favorite scene in the movie. I mean, I love when like he is standing right there and like she reaching
gets
out
right close to him.
Yes, I was just like, oh, like I was on the edge of my seat because she's about to grab him, not knowing it's him. And I mean, it's got good suspense and thrills. It's not, sadly, despite what some reviewers they've really named it, I guess, torture porn because of the turkey baster scene.
Yeah.
Because that's the scene everybody mentions.
Yeah.
And I can give them that, I guess, maybe that one scene. But other than that, the film in and of itself isn't really torture porn. There's not anything that graphic or shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, the turkey baster scene is plenty shocking.
Yeah.
It is, and it's worth it for that alone, I think.
Yeah.
I think you also, that scene is pivotal for the character that's Stephen Lang plays. And I will say I agree with your review and kind of critiquing that. It really, if you think about it, this movie
There's no good people
There's
in
no
the movie.
good people. And they try to distort that a little bit by the end because it's like, oh, hey.
They try to make you feel bad because of what he's done.
What he's done and what he's committed versus what they've done. And I'm like, look, there's no moral equivalency here.
Yeah.
It's like both parties are bad. And thankfully, some lives were spared. I don't want to spoil anything.
Right. Yeah.
But it is one of those situations where you're like, okay, but there's nobody I'm really rooting for.
Yeah.
I didn't think they don't necessarily deserve to die just for robbing him, but at the same
of course not.
But at the same time, they're not good people either. What I kind of hope, because they play around with the morality a little bit, like when they first get one up on him and he's handcuffed, and the one actor who I've seen in a bunch of stuff, but I don't know his name, is like,
well, the boy with
Alex.
the conscience that wants to leave.
Yeah,
he was
Alex.
in The Ritual.
Yes, that's who I'm talking about him. I just couldn't. I don't know his name.
I can't think of his name
in the
either.
movie.
He's
He played
also in 13 Reasons Why.
That's right.
Yes, he is. He plays Alex in this movie, but he's like, when like the guy's like, go ahead, take the money and leave, and he's like, well, he's basically paying us off. I hope there'd be a little bit more crisis of conscience there with her, because she really wants him to get his for what he did to that other woman. So I'd hope maybe by the end of the film, like when you see the, like, spoiler alert, when you see the cop car coming and like she's going to run away, I thought maybe she would decide, he really needs to go down for what he did, and she would forfeit the money and turn herself in so that he would get arrested as well, so that she would. But that would have been good. But that didn't, because it would be like a Baby Driver situation where she would do her dues, but then she would get out and be free because she didn't do anything as bad as him, who would hopefully be back in
I guess
the
the police never went in his basement.
Well, true. Well, it's true. It does show him, I guess, hide the bodies or hide one body, so
hide the prison cell that he created.
Yeah. Well, or like this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really just a chain hanging from a ceiling in the basement.
It's still suspect.
It's like
if there's
padded,
blood from where he shot people, he didn't clean that up.
Hey, they didn't investigate. He said, "Look."
All I'm saying is he could be into
well,
some
he
really
did say
kinky
that
stuff.
He's kinky twisted.
He did say he defended himself, so the dead bodies were like that was self-defense.
Okay,
and they
I got
bought
you.
that.
I remember that.
They do mention that.
So he was
Overall, I enjoyed it. The main thing I think was
there's nitpick things. Like I'm not bashing it.
Well, I was going to throw out one nitpicky thing, but I enjoyed, for the most part, I enjoyed the tension it set in. I enjoyed the edge of your seat, like how are they going to escape this next?
Yeah.
And there were enough twists and turns that I was like, oh, maybe they won't make it out alive. But one of the other nitpicky things was just that for as seasoned as he was in terms of not only being a veteran or being skilled at trying to, I think, play up like, oh, I'm a poor old, disabled man, and immediately flipping the switch to be like, I'm in charge of the situation and I know what's going on. I get like some loud noises were confusing him, but I thought the scene where instinctively she turns the alarm on and it starts blaring and he's right there by the pad and he starts filling on the wall and like he gets to the pad. I'm like, dude, you could gather your senses enough, as thorough as you've been throughout this movie, to execute, to disable the alarm. And that was the only part where I was like, I found it a little unbelievable that he just it was disturbing him so much and so loud that he just couldn't stay there long enough and he stumbled into the other room and that was his undoing. And I'm just like, come on. Like, I don't know. That was one of the nitpicky things that I saw. But overall, I mean, very enjoyable. I would agree 3 out of 4 stars.
I agree. And I would say, using sound as his like kind of, I guess, weakness, I don't have a problem with. I agree. I think maybe if they'd been a little bit more clever about it so that you didn't kind of have. But I mean, I thought ultimately it was fine. I liked most of it. The only other nitpick I had was I thought some of the stuff with the dog was a little overboard with her in the car. Not too bad.
It was
just
like Cujo.
Yeah.
No, I liked how it ended up. I liked the cleverness of the trunk and all of that. But like some of that.
I thought they didn't need as much of it. They had like it just standing on the hood and then it like popping up through the seat.
Yes.
I was like, we've gone on a little too far now.
The dog was always used to give Stephen Lang more time to get to where they were.
Yes.
And that's the only thing, because I'm like, if you want me to, I get it. You've got to have this guy get from A to B, and there's just no way he can do it when he's blind that quickly, so the dog slows things down. I'm like, you can use it for that, but they used it for that so many times that I was just, it kind of got, I almost got to the point where I was just like, well, the dog's going to show up here in a minute and keep him from getting out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, I will say, they use that as a crutch a little bit too much.
Yeah.
My main one for that, in that regard, was the one where he crawls into
in
the
the vent.
vents.
Yeah.
And I liked it at first because I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Like, he's really, he's going after him.
Yeah.
But then it was interesting because I will actually say I liked the idea of what they used him for, to extend the danger of, like, I actually like the part where she runs out in the street and she thinks, I got away. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, and like he immediately runs out. And
I was fine
awesome.
with the dog chasing her. I just like some stuff. I just like
it lasted a little longer than it needed to in that scene.
But again, nitpicky stuff. I gave it 3 stars. I like it.
It was great. Yeah. Great movie. One of, I think, that, like, right along with Saw 10. And
for
even
me
Saw.
and you. Not so much. He didn't care for Saw 10. But still, it's I feel like we've had a better run of Halloween movie reviews so far this year than other years where we've reviewed almost nonstop clunkers. So
what's really creepy though is like Facebook has given. Well, Facebook gave me. I had never seen this movie. I saw the turkey baster scene on Facebook because it was posted as like one of the most disturbing scenes in a movie, and it popped up on a reel or whatever on Facebook. The Ritual was also a movie that I had seen years ago, but then somehow or another Facebook, threw it on there. One of these, if you haven't seen this movie, check it out or whatever. So there's like 2 movies that Facebook has told me to watch that have been good. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I'm gonna start
social media.
I'm gonna start trusting some of these things that pop up and say like, "Hey, here's a movie that's kind of a diamond in the rough kind of thing."
Absolutely.
And I do want to give a little bit more props just to Stephen Lang because he's slowly becoming my favorite underrated actor because it's
Pandora.
like you see him in Avatar and you're like, this guy's terrible.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, the Marvel podcast I listened to where he played an old man Hawkeye, I thought he was amazing. And then he does a good job in this. So I'm just like, maybe he can act if you give him the right, direction.
As long as it's not James Cameron directing him.
Yeah.
And we've seen that.
Terra Nova was pretty bad too.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But that was right off the heels of Pandora.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think so.
Maybe he's just gotten better with age then, because but both the podcast and this were after Avatar, so maybe after that he was like, you know what, I'm gonna act better now.
But no, I would agree. He was definitely one of the highlights of the film, no doubt. All right, let's move on to our headline segment. I don't know what that was. I have no idea. Oh. Okay, that makes sense.
We don't get to push that one much.
No, we don't. That's a good one. Let's talk about our first headline. It is the topic of the week. Oh my gosh, WB. selling to Universal, or should I say WB Discovery?
They saved their pity so that they could, for the week.
This is it. They're coming back to cash in now.
Well, again, this is rumor and speculation, nothing official, but it's a rumor that's being heavily spread by like pretty much every major. It's one of those things where people want to know, could this be true?
Well,
because how crazy would that be? I will say
the one we linked to, the article we linked to at the bottom, is from comic book. Is it comic book CBR, comicbookreviews.com?
This is comic book news.
Oh, comic book news. Okay,
there is another CBR, but this one's
comic book news. He touts himself about mentioning this from some insiders that he went to at a Comic-Con, back in the summer?
Yes.
And I think it is interesting that it's now getting word from other industry insiders is getting around, and he's saying, see, told ya. And it's like it's making its rounds enough that it's becoming increasingly more clear that maybe WB was not such a great buy from David Zaslav, the CEO of Discovery, wanting to take over that property and come in and chart the course for this ship.
Yeah.
That it's sinking faster than we had expected, and they may be looking for a buyer.
And I don't remember if it was Hollywood Reporter or because he does quote how one of the major news sources is now furthering this.
Hollywood Reporter or Variety.
But they had even stated that there are employees at Warner Brothers who have heard this and are now kind of spreading this as well. Like, hey, we've heard we might be so. So it's one of those things that it's definitely getting around. And it's crazy to me because from what he has said, Zaslav is hoping Universal would split the sale. He can keep Discovery, but then they would sell Warner Brothers to Universal. And to me, that's crazy, too, because it's literally you were already Discovery. You bought Warner Brothers, merged the two. You merged Discovery Plus with HBO Max and rebranded it as Max.
Yeah.
So if you were to split and sell off Warner Brothers, what happens to all that? Like, does Max get split again and go back to HBO Max? Does Universal rebrand it? It's like that's a lot of.
Does Max get absorbed into Peacock?
Because whoever.
yeah.
Because because Universal owns Peacock, and that's the thing. Anybody who's going to buy them would have to think about. It's like you were just bought a couple years ago. You just did all this merging and rebranding. If we buy it, we're going to have to undo all that if they're not willing to sell Discover as part of it. So that's a lot of money, time, and effort, and having to gain back viewership because already people were aggravated about what the merging with Max and what's going on with DC, which is another aspect is when if Universal were to buy Warner Brothers, what do they do with DC?
Well, and actually I think that's the biggest question on most people's minds because regarding all of this, we know that Gunn has been aboard now for over a year, but we still haven't seen the fruits of his labor. We've seen some fruits of what has been leftovers, and they've not been good. And we've seen nothing but flops, certifiable flops.
And they keep trying to tell us, well, you got to wait till his actual DCU with Superman Legends.
And that's where all this comes into question, and where this plays a big role. When you have certifiable flops like Shazam, The Flash, and even Blue Beetle,
that was
absolutely.
a major flop.
But it's like all of that. Plus what's on the horizon with Aquaman 2, not knowing, and we're going to get into that drama here in a sec, but not knowing who's going to return and who's going to return as whom in that series. But then with Gunn's DC reboot, not set for the summer of 2025, is that in question now?
Yeah, I mean 2025 is right around when the sale would be taking place.
Yeah,
it's going to be 2 years.
They say that they wouldn't sell for like 2 years, so that's 2025.
Within 2
years. Okay.
Yeah.
So between now and 2025, if they sell, that is crazy to think about because do you just let James Gunn continue on as he's doing? Because if you scrap his ideas now, well, then that's a complete restart, just like from the Snyderverse.
It's better that they scrap it now than let it get 2 or 3 movies in and find out it's not working.
I 100% agree
that's what
with
they already did.
But my thing is that's going to push back those movies even further and lose interest even more because people are already losing interest based off the leftover Snyderverse movies that aren't doing well.
And that does come into play with a little bit of what some of the management has already decided in the course of since Gunn's taken over. And the fact is I'm wondering if David Zaslav was just a great salesman to get Gunn on board, but then even they're saying now some of the rumors of them touting how important and great The Flash was going to be rested on the fact that the ending ultimately did end with Ben Affleck coming back as Batman.
Him and Henry Cavill.
And Henry
apparently.
Cavill to certify that he was going to return as Superman. And it was Zaslav that stepped in and said, no, you can't take them. We need some. We're bleeding money. They cost too much.
Yeah.
You need to find somebody cheaper. And so they took the hit, and it's almost as if they shot those scenes, and it's apparent that those were already in the books when the decision was made to go with different actors. And if that's the case, then no wonder you have Gunn, who's maybe got his mouth zipped and he can't, I don't know if it's because, some kind of non-disclosure and he can't specifically say.
You can't bite the hand that feeds. You don't want to be like, I didn't want to get rid of Cavill. Zaslav made me. He just has to be like, say all the bullcrap answer he's been giving and hope that people accept it.
Kind of makes you wonder what he told Cavill when he let him go. I mean, when they had this discussion, did he say, look, I can't really make it public, but they don't want to pay you. They want somebody cheaper.
Right.
Like, did they say that, or did he have to make up a BS story?
It would not surprise me if it's off the record in text somewhere or even a phone call.
Yeah.
I could see Gunn.
Like, sorry, bud, I didn't want to do this to you.
And also just saying, look, dude, and who knows?
Instead of we need somebody younger.
If Gunn has any bit of the respect that I thought he once had as a creator, he could be the kind of person that maybe did call him up and say, look, you need to, not as like, more as like friendly advice. Like, this is like, I'm sorry, this is the decision that's been made, but wear this on the chin and carry it as if like, hey, it wasn't you were willing to participate.
Yeah.
You love this character. You like, and Henry Cavill was like, well, of course, I'm going to play it like that because that's real.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Gunn's like, good. Yeah. Heap all the crap on us, man. It's all our fault.
And it's crazy because while I understand like trying to save money, don't you think like fans were avid, like they loved Henry Cavill as Superman, despite even how bad some of the stuff he was in was. They still wanted him back.
That's
so
one
it's
of
like
the things I don't understand about the money is
it's
Henry Cavill wants to get paid like anybody else, but I guarantee you he
would
is
have
the
brought
guy that. Well, he's the guy that would have said, "I love being this character."
He might have taken.
I'll
a pay
take
cut,
less.
Yeah.
I really do think he is.
How do you know if you don't open up those negotiations?
Not only he may have been willing to take less, and I think he might also would have helped draw people back in.
Yeah.
Like now, it's like people have this bad taste in their mouth, and they're like, "Well, we don't know if we want to see a new Superman."
And all of these decisions sound like they're being made in a boardroom to the degree that it's like, you set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Why do you think these 3 movies that have already launched this year have been a certifiable flop? Because nobody's looking forward to what you have to come because it's all in disarray.
Yeah.
We don't know what to actually follow and if any of it's going to be used. The fact that there's rumors floating around that Momoa may not return as Aquaman, even though Aquaman 2 is coming out, he'll return as Lobo.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, so he's still going to be in the universe. But then there's other characters like, Cena, he's going to continue as Peacemaker. Even freaking Viola Davis is coming back as her character.
Viola Davis, John Cena, and Blue Beetle's actor, like the only 3 they've confirmed are returning.
It makes no sense.
And I'm like, why? And they're
Blue Beetle doesn't need to return, period.
No.
But then as far as all of the Snyderverse Justice League actors, like none of the, like they're saying none of them are going to return except for maybe Momoa as Lobo. And I'm like, why bring him back? If you're not going to bring any of them back, then don't bring any of them back.
Well, and you can't bring
him back as a different
an
character.
A-lister who played an A-list character and now make him somebody who's...
Make him a B-list character.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that was one of the things, even with Affleck and Cavill, when all of that stuff broke about them no longer being involved in these movies, Gunn always said... When we had our chats were good, and it was clear, like, you will not be Superman moving forward, but we will work with you in the future. And it was like, okay, so maybe Henry Cavill's going to come back as a different character. But again, in the same thing with Affleck, it was like, I'd like to work with you, just not as Batman. And so it's kind of like, but again, like you said, if Jason Momoa plays anybody else, all you're going to think of is, why is Aquaman Lobo?
Exactly.
And I told Brandon this the other day. I was like, what makes even less sense to me is Aquaman in the comics isn't kind of the frat boy that Jason Momoa plays him as. They make him act more like Marvel's Thor. But Lobo is. Lobo's personality is very much exactly like how Momoa plays Aquaman. So I'm like, how's that going to work if you make him another character and he behaves exactly like Aquaman?
That's just going to confuse the hell out of people. And that's honestly, that's what all this is. I mean, the reason why I don't mind talking about speculation or this being a rumor as much attention as it's getting is because it at least holds them to the fire, their feet to the fire, and the fact that they're going to have to come out at some point and say something.
Yeah.
They're going to have to bring this out in the open and actually give us some particulars on what's going on, whether they completely deny it and lie to our face, or whether they say, look, this is the truth of it, and here's what's going on behind the scenes. Because, if you're talking about another Cell in 2 to 3 years, or even one currently taking place, unless there is like a contractual ironclad agreement by whoever buys out Warner Brothers, they're going to continue with Gunn at the helm and the vision he has. There's really no reason to start this franchise.
Nope.
There's no scrap it. People are already inundated with superhero movies. People are getting tired of Marvel, and they're on their own, charting their own course, which we're about to get into.
They got all kinds of problems.
But it's like when you even have Aquaman 2 with all of the production woes it's had, along with the certifiable flops this year. I mean, they're talking about freaking Momoa showing up to the set drunk and spewing.
Well, that's what Amber
Heard has alleged.
I don't believe crap from her anymore. So she's saying these things.
Here's the thing. Part of the reason why I would agree, she pontificates and makes stuff up.
Yeah.
But part of this was because it was seen within back and forth text between her and other people, and she was saying Jason Wan had completely wrote it off after the whole accusations against Johnny Depp, and after the first movie came out, he was like, she's fired from the second movie, she was blacklisted, but
she wasn't.
But no, I'm saying that all of this was stuff that was said in between.
Oh no, I know.
And so with this coming to light, part of it is it's showing not only the vitriolic, nature of what's going on set within this DC universe, but it's this is one of your more prominent, successful movies that it is the most successful DC movie to launch yet. And yet you're hoping and banking off of that with the second one coming out this December. Yeah. But with all of this that has already come before it, and people banking off of why are we holding on to hope?
There's
about
no reason.
This holdover?
Everything's a mess, and there's no reason. The Flash, Black Adam, Blue Beetle, there's no reason to even go watch, or even Shazam 2. There's no reason to go watch Aquaman 2 anymore, because after seeing all those movies, you realize they aren't going anywhere. They're just holdover movies that they're releasing. So it's what's the point of watching Aquaman 2 when based on every other one that's released so far, that it's not going to have any connection to what James Gunn's doing forward. And then when, like you said, when you hear the disarray, whether any of those things are true or not, it still shows, like you said, just complete chaos going on at Warner Brothers. And they're not doing any better than Marvel right now.
Something tells me they need to get some more stability within again, the boardroom and the heads of whatever departments they have, in terms of making sure they have some clarity and clear direction moving forward. That it's okay, maybe before we launch a huge IP based universe, depending on one of the let's face it, if there's going to be a guaranteed moneymaker, and they could easily point to what has just come out and say, well, that's not true, we've had nothing but flops. Well, yeah, because there's been no stability. There's been no comfort level from the audience saying, okay, we trust you with this property. Yeah. You have to build that trust over, because you've just completely demolished it. Not just with, these films that were half-baked, but also because you've not shown that you trust, that you're putting the property in the right hands.
Yep. Yeah, uncertainty doesn't sell very well.
No, nope. and exactly.
And I think that's exactly the same thing going on with Marvel, especially what we've heard going into the other headline about their TV business. It's one of those things, again, no stability, nobody in charge that knows what they're doing, especially when it comes to Marvel and now what we've seen with the television side. And so there's no faith.
And hubris.
Hubris. So there's no faith in DC or Marvel now, especially when you read that they basically have just been running the television shows for Disney Plus the same way they try to make movies, with just having a TV, or not a TV executive. That's what they don't have. They don't even have showrunners. They just would put a movie executive and say, make sure this goes well. We know you've never done a TV show or and you don't even know how TV show productions work. Right. But make sure this goes. And that tells me that Kevin Feige's stretched too thin. He's the guy who says, I have my hands on everything. I'm in charge of everything. He's now the chief creative officer of Marvel. They made him that a year or two ago.
Yes.
And it's okay, your job is to oversee. You're in charge of the creative aspects of Marvel in all aspects: comic books, movies, shows. Yeah. You're no longer just the head of the MCU. So you have to delegate. You have to let go and make sure things are running properly, not just say, let me pop in here, let me pop in here, let me pop in here. Oh, well, I don't want to make a showrunner or have someone in charge of the TV side because I want to be the one involved. So I'll just place this executive there who doesn't know what he's doing.
9 shows for Marvel that have already been produced. And you're talking about the decision was made to make these 9 series, like literally from the outset, saying we're going to pay $150 million for a season.
You just go make it,
and just go make it. No pilot, no test subject.
Nope.
And then it wasn't until the most recent with the bringing back of Daredevil, and we had already been teased with the what's his name returning as Daredevil,
Bernthal?
John Bernthal.
He's returning as the Punisher, in the new series.
Charlie Cox is the,
Charlie Cox is that's Matt Murdock.
Matt Murdock,
yeah,
and he was already brought back as a fan favorite in Spider-Man.
He was in Spider-Man, and he was in She-Hulk. They've built him up in 2 different projects.
That's
but his first reveal of,
was in No Way Home.
We're solidifying he's returning, was in Spider-Man, to be like, oh my gosh, okay, this, and it gets the excitement. Then they go off with a legal drama that they produce from the get-go where he doesn't even end up in the Daredevil suit until like the 4th episode. And they're not even going to continue in the same vein as the original Netflix show, which made him and Daredevil popular again.
They cut characters from the Netflix show that I know a lot of fans were very ticked about. They talk about, I forget the actor's name that plays Foggy Nelson, but they talk about like his character supposedly was going to be killed basically off screen in between the series. And that's why Daredevil doesn't suit up for so long, because he retires for like a year until he gets over his crap and is like, okay, I'm going to don the suit again. And I'm like, that's really a crap way to do both the actors who made that the show popular and fans who want to see their return. If you're going to do it, then do it. People want the Netflix show. And I understand Kevin Feige has this issue where he wants the MCU to be all these things that he's created. So these other properties we can borrow from, but they're part of the multiverse, and this is actually our main MCU. And I'm like, no, that's not what people don't want the Netflix version to be, some other multiverse, and then this Daredevil's new. They want the Netflix Daredevil. That's what they loved. So
and them really bringing Charlie Cox back to solidify that was, in my way, them thinking, okay, maybe they are just going to continue with that. But no, of course, like you said, Kevin Feige again has to have his hands on everything, and he's got to give it his okay and his signature of, oh, no, this is my stamp of approval.
He butt heads with Ike Perlmutter when he was in charge of Marvel. He butt heads with Jeff Loeb, who was in charge of Marvel's TV division that made the Netflix series until they folded the TV vision. Because what happened was Disney made him COO.
Or CCO.
Yeah, CCO. They got rid of Jeff Loeb. They fired him completely and folded the TV division into Marvel Studios so that Kevin Feige was in charge of the movies and television. And then ultimately they finally got rid of Ike Perlmutter too. Anybody who stood in Kevin Feige's way had to go. And I think Marvel's been worse for it. I mean, I loved Kevin Feige when he first started, but I think it's a thing where he got too big for his britches. He doesn't know everything that's best for Marvel. I think getting rid of Ike Perlmutter, and I don't think Ike Perlmutter was also the best when it came to the movie side. I think he didn't understand that side as well as Kevin Feige did. But that's why you needed both of them, not shut off everybody else and just trust Feige completely.
No, absolutely. And I think that if anything is the most, to me, that's the most telling is maybe that not only he's spread too thin, but that he doesn't have the wherewithal to figure out how to manage these multiple different, intricacies when it comes to how to expand the quote unquote multiverse that they've talked about.
I'm tired. I'm so tired of the multiverse.
Same.
And everybody's it's a trend. Everybody's trying to do it now too.
But also it's an easy way for them to just throw crap out.
Yeah.
And just see what sticks and mark it as a success.
Continuity doesn't matter because if it doesn't make sense, well, that's just a different part of the multiverse.
I thought the way that Marvel was handling the multiverse was going to be creative and it was going to have that continuity. And then when DC decided that they were going to have the the other like the Batman and
like
the Joker.
Flashpoint.
They're calling it Other Worlds or
extended universe, I think.
No.
It was
Elseworlds.
Elseworlds. Yeah.
Elseworlds.
And it's like, it's just an excuse for you to be able to have all these side projects, but not not make them, have any continuity with your main projects.
Right.
And that was what bothered me about the way DC was doing it. But now it seems like Marvel's like doing the same thing. I thought they were going to tackle the multiverse in a much better way, but it doesn't seem that they're able to do that. I don't know.
And I was going to say, I mean, it seems like, I will say there's some kind of hopeful promise in this, because the way Kevin Feige's kind of hitting the reset button and he's thinking, okay, my favorite quote was, it was like somebody had mentioned that he was like, hey, well, at least we now understand why they do the traditional TV model. Like now they're moving forward with, they're going to only produce like a pilot. They're going to have showrunners. They're going to have actual people who focus on each property. One big, huge turn of events is that they're not going to do the like, just a mini series type for like one season. Season 2 of Loki is the only season.
That's the only show that has another season.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do think that when they're mentioning like, oh, we want to have multiple seasons of that focus on a particular character, that give you time for stories to build, for you to get to know a character. I'm like, wow, like traditional TV, which we've seen
have an actual story,
and has been hugely popular in the same way, but albeit for a different purpose on the big screen with the Marvel Universe. Yeah. The reason the Infinity Saga was so huge was that it wasn't done in the same way that TV had been done for years. And not the sitcom, but what we were getting with Mad Men and Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. It's like you were getting these serialized dramas that were telling these very detailed stories,
long form storytelling,
right?
Oh yeah,
in a very visceral way that made you just absolutely take hold and be like, wow, this is more riveting than a 2-hour drama that I may sit through in the theater. And then when you get the Infinity Saga and it's like, oh, this hasn't been done before, we're going to take all these vignettes of these characters and we're going to weave them together into a bigger story. And it was like, okay, now we see that paying off. But then for him to then revert back to, okay, well, more content means, content is king. It's like, no, content in terms of story is king, but not just, numerous amounts of
You're
it.
just making projects to have projects. Like, well, we need to introduce this character, give it a show.
It is. In between our movies, we're going to have these shows, and the shows are going to have tiny bits and pieces that really maybe fit with the movie, but they're not really necessary. And that's what they've done with all the shows, and that's why I don't find any of them interesting. Loki is the best show that they've produced,
and I haven't watched any.
I haven't watched the season 2 either, but I mean, just season 1 it's better than Captain America and Winter Soldier. It was better than Hawkeye. It was like you've got these characters that were doing a lot of stuff before the Avengers.
Yes.
It's like, why not back these shows up with stories of these characters before the Avengers or in between some of these Avengers scenarios, and not worry so much about them being weaved and threaded in with the film.
Or just tell a personal, like, I'm okay with that. It doesn't, like, I want things to be connected and know where the grander scheme is, but if you tell just a personal story about that specific character or hero, I'm fine with that too, because I enjoy seeing the character growth. That's the problem I had with Multiverse of Madness and Thor. It's like, maybe they don't connect to the larger story in the way we wanted, but if they had at least shown good character growth and gave both those characters a solid story, I would have been happy. But instead, Doctor Strange has just reverted back to being the a-hole he was in the first movie, so they destroyed his character growth.
Thor, you mentioned him earlier. He's just become a joke.
And Thor was turned back into the frat boy moron he was in the first Thor movie. It's like you took these characters that actually had progression throughout the Infinity Saga and said, oh, let's just make them jackasses because that's funny.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's become, look no further than their results of how they've not only not dependent on actual people to do their jobs that have worked in other industries or in the television industry, but the fact that so much of it has been to pump it out and make filler, and they've depended on post-production, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll fix it there. We'll fix it with some AI or some special effects, or we'll re-edit this a certain way. And it's like, it took you this long to realize it wasn't working? Like, come on. I mean, there is some hope, but not much hope. No. I mean, I do think they just need a creative upheaval. in so much as not just the Kang dynasty and that storyline being fulfilled. Because, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Who's even interested?
I don't care about
I've
Kang.
forgotten
Nobody's
about it.
interested.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've
don't-
already forgotten about
I don't
Kang.
care about. I mean, I like Kang from the comic books. He is a very threatening villain, but he's not in the movies. I just don't care.
Yeah.
I do want to say one other thing that I found hilarious though was that we had this months-long writer strike, and the minute it ends, they're like, "Hey, Daredevil writers, y'all suck. You're fired."
but then all of a sudden, and then they bring, then they it's funny because they've had instances where they brought people back, because they immediately realize like, oh crap, well we just got ourselves into backed into a corner we can't get out of. So hey, you want to come on back and fix this?
Yeah.
And it's just like they're probably either going to end up doing the same thing, or they're going to return to form and say, oh yeah, we really did step in it. We shouldn't have hired them in the first place. Let's go back to the original.
I would like to
creators.
see better people in charge that can run things, and also just like with Rings of Pooh, because I would like to see some writers with that have a little like experience. Like I know like yes, everyone has to start somewhere. And I'm not saying don't hire new writers and give them a chance. We should do that. But maybe don't put nothing but new writers in charge of all these shows that have no experience and also don't know anything about the source material
That's what I
they're
was going to say.
adapting.
Yeah, it's not just experience. They have to respect the material.
Yes.
And otherwise, you have people like The Witcher, where the writers and the producers of that show crapped all over the books and the games
Until their lead leaves.
lead leaves. Yeah,
That's right. Because they don't respect the
No,
source
they don't.
material. That's right. So we'll see what happens, what comes of this. Who knows? One other thing, if you're getting tired of Disney, there is one last headline I just want to bring up real quick. Bent Key from the Daily Wire folks, or from Jeremy Boring himself, has launched as an alternative to Disney, specifically going after the small children crowd.
I noticed that. I would hopefully in the future like them to expand into a little bit older, because it really is aimed at very young
children.
Well, and I think I like the way he spoke about it. He specifically said that is supposed to be their age range. That Daily Wire Plus is more pop culture and political, but that's where like their there are other feature-length films that we've reviewed, whether Run, Hide, Fight, or Gina Carano's.
No, I'm not talking about like
what was
on the Terror on the Prairie.
Terror on the Prairie.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be their more adult-themed content.
Yeah, I don't want adult-themed stuff on Bent Key. I just meant like something that's more broader for.
Everything on there is for the kids who watch Blue's Clues and Bluey.
Yes, it's
and
very young.
It's very young. There's nothing for my oldest son right now.
I would like the older elementary.
Nothing
Runes,
10 to 13.
There's about
Ruins. I
is
did
the
watch.
only
I watched
one.
the first episode of that.
How
and that's
ridiculous!
kind of,
Actually, it was one that
how ridiculous
my nephew,
did seem like it was trying to draw the crowd of Dude Perfect and Unspeakable and some of the YouTube guys.
Well,
and
it's
that
funny
is
too
one
because
that
I
I would
watched them on YouTube.
Yeah, that's one that I
Yeah.
would be. I think Sawyer would be
But
into, but most of the other stuff was kind of childish.
for me, and it's fine. I think that's admirable to go after that age range too. But for me, like if you're going to be a Disney competitor, Disney used to make movies that were accessible to all ages and family, and I kind of want to see some of that too. Where
I think
it's
there
not
will be.
just there will be. I think
Snow
so
White
too.
will be.
Because
Snow White
even
and the
Runes
Evil
looks like it's
Queen.
the only thing that's
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, Snow White and the Evil Queen. That's
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
starring Brett Cooper. Because Runes was the only thing I saw on there that I felt like was something that a little bit of an older child can enjoy and not feel like they're just being like.
I finally did get my app to work to where I was able to.
It's running well
to watch
now.
some of the, and I watched the first episode of Ruins. And I watched the. There was another show on there that was
Chinchilla.
No, I didn't watch
Chipchilla.
Chipchilla.
I'm
Rob
trying to think of-
Schneider's the dad in that. I
Yeah,
thought
that's
my
hilarious.
sister
Yeah.
even texted me. She's like, "That's weird." She's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." When you see him as the freaking
He's a
Deuce
conservative
Bigelow,
guy, so
Yeah.
yeah.
There's and it's not for the creator of Fairly Odd Parents for Nickelodeon is actually making a children's animated show for some Christian app network. That I
Probably
thought-
Angel Studios.
But I just thought that was kind of cool and interesting because I mean that was a fairly well known show back in the 90s.
yeah.
So I'm like the fact that he's doing this, you know.
Well, and I think if anything, what gives me hope here, and Jeremy Boring did bring light to the fact that he's like, look, Disney's 100 years old. They have some of the most iconic properties.
Yeah.
He's like, but to me, he said they're doing such a disservice to the name of Disney and what Walt himself, it may be Disney by name, but it's not what Walt's vision originally was for Disney.
Yeah.
And they've tarnished his legacy. And that if another company has to come in, he's like, I hope that maybe in 100 years we can compete with someone the likes of Disney, because right now they aren't competing on that level and that caliber that they were known for, and they are on a downward spiral. And I think there is a huge swath of people that Disney's alienated that is looking for an audience or looking for content, and at least they're willing to offer that platform.
Yeah.
I commend them for the launch, and I agree. It had some rocky stuff in terms of the getting on the app.
I mean, I think they'll get there though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's first day launch
Bugs,
issues.
Yeah.
I do think it's awesome that if you do have a Daily Plus subscription already,
you already get
the access to the
because if
Bent Key.
you don't have Daily Wire Plus, it's $99 a year just for Bent Key.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
It's a year an
you might
annual
as-
subscription. So it's if you just want it by itself, it's $100 a year. But for $100 a year, you can get Daily Wire
it's
Plus.
like you might
Bent
as
Key.
well
Right.
just
Yeah.
go
And
ahead
I actually
do
like that though,
Yeah.
because it's saying, hey, we're giving you a safe space where your kids are not going to be indoctrinated.
Yep.
This is the Saturday cartoons that you grew up with when you were a kid, where your parents could sit you down and they didn't have to worry about an ideology being pumped into your head. And that's what it's going to be. If you care about just that, and you even don't like our politics, if you don't like the conservative aspect that we come from, then that's fine. You don't have to subscribe to that from Daily Wire Plus. You don't have to get that kind of news, but you can just subscribe to this. I think that's a good way to market it. But I also think it's admirable and awesome that they are going after this crowd, and it gives you an alternative that just simply isn't there in the world that we face right now. Disney is that only
And if nothing
form
else,
factor.
it helps keep Disney on their toes. And,
Absolutely.
And maybe, the competition, when at some point in the future, when maybe people get some clarity and Bob Iger's no longer there, maybe Disney will rebound and go back to some of the values they once held, especially if they have fierce competition forcing them to. But
Yeah.
You can only hope.
But we don't know.
And without
yeah.
that competition there, we truly won't know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if there's one thing we know about, sadly, the woke mind virus is once it's taken hold, it's a virus. It eats you alive. And there it is.
Yeah.
Share the load.
Alrighty, guys, we're going to move into our final segment of the night, our story time segment.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time. Ooh, we got the green lights. It's a little bit spooky.
Makes me think of green always makes me think of like extraterrestrial, like being abducted or something.
I mean, maybe you've
Maybe
been
you've
abducted.
got an abduction story.
Maybe there's
Did you
a
get
story.
anal probed
I haven't.
yet?
There are times if I'm driving in the dark, like if I'm towards Nolan Lake or something at night, or just even like if like I'll say Blevins Gap just because that's a dark winding road. Anytime I'm like there and I see like really bright lights around the corner, I immediately think it's like, what if I turn the corner and it's like I just see this like big ship or something and it goes off, or I get sucked into the light. And usually it's a car with its brights on, but
You never
I still
know.
think
There
what
could be a
if?
time you turn that corner and it's the last time. And there you are.
The last corner you ever take.
And all of a
I'll
sudden,
come back.
you're in the
It'll
middle
be days
of space.
later, and
Yeah.
I'll have memories of coming out of a cocoon and them pumping goop into me like
Yep.
fire in the sky.
That's
Could be.
right.
Yeah.
You could wake
It's
up
terrifying.
and there's lights surrounding you and you're getting probed, like Sean alluded to. Maybe it'll happen.
Maybe.
You never know until those lights are staring at you and you don't come to.
So what's
Yeah.
our story time segment?
Our story time has already started.
Oh.
Spooky stories that we've either heard, that we know of, that have happened to us,
Yeah.
or even just tell a little spooky story yourself.
Make one up.
You can make one up.
Mm.
That's our story time segment. Keith?
I got
think
one.
You said,
Wait,
whoa.
I do. I
It
have
says,
one.
I got one.
I got a true story.
That's right. So do I.
True story.
Oh, man.
So-
True stories are scarier.
They are.
And you all are going to make up for mine because I don't really have
Well,
one.
I have a true story. It was, let's see. It wasn't that long ago, honestly. I'm trying to remember exactly, maybe a month. I think it may have been my nephew's birthday, Lance. But anyways, they had the party during the day, blah, 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 all the normal stuff. But then, like, that night after everybody left or whatever, I'm hanging out with Miranda and Kyle, and I think Charles and Michelle stayed, and we all hung out pretty late into the night. And I think I may have fallen asleep on the couch for a little bit, but either way, all I know is at some point I wake up, I go home, and it's like, it's going to be like 3 a.m. And it's like 3:30 when I get home. I don't know if you ever heard like 3:33 a.m. is supposed to be like some type of witching hour, and that's when aliens abduct people and supernatural stuff. But it was around like 3:30.
Didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Watch.
Okay.
I think that it's called Fourth Kind. It's supposed to be like this Sunai documentary.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
333.
So anyways, I'm letting my dogs out at like 3:33 in the morning because they need to go out because I haven't been home for pretty much all day. And I mean, it's pitch black out there. I can't see nothing. It's dark in my house because I'm not really turning the lights on. I'm just going to go to bed, and I let them out, and I'm standing there. And like I hear these noises like outside, like behind my house. Now behind my house is, I have this privacy fence, and behind the house is this ditch line, and then like this small section of like trees, woods, whatever you want to call it. Because I see wild animals all the time. I've seen rabbits, raccoons, possums, even a deer like in my ditch line just standing there. So I'm hearing these noises that sound like children laughing, but not like there's actual children there. It just kind of sounds like a high-pitched laughter, I guess. Not quite childlike, but also not adult. And it's creepy. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I have no idea. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, what type of supernatural stories are there? Because I've heard about, like, hearing laughter like that before. And I'm just thinking of whatever. And I'm out here like, Luke, Ellie, get in the hell. Because I'm like, I don't know what it is, and it's creepy as crap. And I just keep hearing it. And it's like 3:33 in the morning. And I'm just like,
Are you half asleep too? And
No. Like I was.
No, you just got home.
I just got
Dang.
home, and I'm going to go to bed. So like I'm trying to get them
You're
in the
not
house.
hallucinating or nothing.
No. No hallucinogenics, I promise. But Ellie comes in immediately because she won't stray too far from where I'm at anyways. But Luke will wander around, especially in the dark. He don't care. He just wanders around. And I'm like halfway tempted to just be like, I'm about to close and lock you out for the night because you won't come in. And I'm hungry for him. So I finally close it and lock it. And I don't know what it was. Never really found out. I kind of look up like what these things are supposed to be, like realistically and supernaturally, and there's all kinds of supernatural stories about that type of laughter. But there's also real stories about animals that sound
Coyotes.
like that. Hyenas was one that's apparently sound exactly that have supernatural tales related to them. And I'm like, well, I know there's no hyenas behind my house.
No,
but the other
maybe
one
not.
is coyotes.
Yeah.
Coyotes sound like that.
Pack of coyotes.
And I'm like, that could be because I have seen coyotes before. And I'm like, I would like to hope it was coyotes I'm hearing, not whatever weird crap it could be. But I'm just like, that's crazy because if that's what coyotes sound like at night, that's terrifying.
I don't
Like,
think you were
it just
hearing
sounds
coyotes.
like so. That's what I think I heard.
I think
but
you were hearing little aliens.
maybe.
little aliens.
But yes,
Little child aliens.
it makes me feel better to know that Sean also knows coyotes make that. So I'm like, okay, see what I read online's true. Coyotes make
Yeah.
laughing noises.
What's crazy is he's gonna go home tonight. And he's gonna let his dogs out.
And I'm gonna hear it again.
And he's gonna hear it again just so that you know
No.
they were listening
At
this whole time.
3:33. He has to wait until 3:33.
That's what made it creepy,
What if-
is it was
what
so
if-
early in the morning.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
I've
I
heard
haven't
the
either.
11:11 one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the other one that I've heard.
I mean, what if you were to hear it outside, like your bedroom, like your bedroom window at 3:33 in the morning, and it woke you
Then
up?
I know I'm probably being abducted, and I don't know what I would do.
You don't
Give
know?
up the booty. Is what you're gonna
If
do
the light
to
stops
those
shining
aliens.
through,
Probe
shining
me,
through my
baby.
They're
window.
gonna probe you.
That's it.
That's like if I don't get probed, I'm pissed. I'm gonna leave.
it's
I'm
weird,
gonna be
'cause
like, no, I'm staying until you probe me.
I've had like night terrors before, like sleep paralysis, where you wake up and you see like a shadow. Like I've had that before, and it creeps me
All right,
out.
I got a
I've
good
never
one.
had
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, I've had that before. It scared the crap out of me. I would almost rather that happen to me again than wake up to aliens. Like
Oh,
I'm
gosh,
just
no.
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, because see that I know is fake, or at least I'm hoping it's fake because of the sleep paralysis. If I wake up and aliens abducted me, I'm like, oh crap, aliens are real, and I'm about to get probed.
Okay.
I'm getting probed.
Sean, what about you? What was your scary story?
Mine was when I was a child, and it was so scary that I remember it like it was yesterday.
oh man.
But when I was about 5 or 6 years, no, I was probably 4 or 5. Used to have a waterbed, and like a small waterbed, but had like the wooden headboard.
Yes.
And then waterbeds didn't go all the way up against the wall. The bed part didn't. The
Yeah.
headboard did, but you could crawl under the headboard.
Yeah, there's a gap.
There's a gap.
I
Like
used to have a
square
waterbed
gap.
too. Yeah.
So saw the movie Gremlins, and then went straight to bed. And in the middle of the night, I felt something rustling like my covers at the foot of the bed. So I woke up, was freaking out because my parents' room is across the hallway. The door is shut, and it's dark in my room except for this tiny little plug-in-the-wall nightlight. And I'm like, okay, that was weird. Maybe, at 4 or 5 years old, I'm not even thinking maybe I dreamt and just moved and woke myself up, or I'm freaked out. Then my feet are grabbed and pulled to the point where it pulled me under my own covers. And so at that point, I'm like jerking my legs up and curling up into a ball.
See, I hear this now, and I don't want sleep paralysis anymore.
Yeah, I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is going on. And in the nightlight, I see a shadow of gloppy little ears running around the side of my bed. It looks like the outline of the gremlin. And it's running across the side of my bed, and I just see its shadow, and it went to the little cubby under the back of the bed. So at that point, I'm like, if I get out of the bed to leave my room and run to my parents' room, it's right there,
it's under.
It can come out of that hole and grab me. So I don't know. I have got nowhere to go. So at that point, I'm like, I've got to look. Like all movies where there's something under the bed, the kid always leans over and looks. So I do that, and it's just a black
pitch
box, like a black tunnel under that bed.
An abyss.
And all I see when I look under there is glowing red eyes.
No way.
And at that point, I pretty much wet myself, and I open the door as quick as I can and run and bust through my parents' door, wake them up, and of course they come in my room, look around, they use Monster Spray, which was aerosol from the bathroom, like they do the whole thing. My dad checked the closet, like all that stuff, and I slept with the light on that night and never had the experience ever again, but I was fully awake. I was not dreaming. And it was just probably all my mind just playing tricks on me, seeing what I wanted to see after I saw this scary movie. It was scary to me as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's like, for years after that, I slept with my feet tucked in the blanket.
Yep.
And I slept with them on the wooden plank at the edge of the bed.
Yep.
I would not put my feet down at the end of the bed.
They can't get you if you're under the covers.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get me on the side of the bed.
That's
They
right.
could only pull my feet at the foot of the bed.
Yes.
So I slept like that for years. Even after I moved to a different room and a different bed, I still slept like that.
Yeah.
And to this day, I will not sleep with my feet untucked. I have to be tucked in.
I'm
So
with you.
I think it's programmed into me from that experience.
No doubt. And I'm
But
in the
that
same
scared
way.
me to death as a child.
I guess maybe because I feel like it's just the most comfortable, but I'm in the same boat. It's like I do not sleep with my. I actually, when I make my bed, and it takes a while for my sheet to come untucked from the end of the bed, but I always tuck it under the mattress, of course, so that it's like it got a little bit of loose, so I can pull it up over me.
I always tuck mine under the mattress.
But I'm like, that way there's no way for something to come up on that end of the bed.
Yeah.
To get under there.
Yep. A spider or snake or nothing.
Right. Exactly. It's like full protection.
Yep.
Yeah.
I toss and turn so much that they all come out.
Mine
anyway,
do over
so,
over like a couple weeks, but usually
mine
by that
do in
time
one night, every night.
Oh dang!
I move around.
Yeah.
I pull all the blankets.
See,
so.
mine, at least after a while, when I realize they're untucked, I'm like, oh, it's time to change them and wash them. And I'm like, all right, that's my sign.
I normally feel comforted in that Luke most of the time sleeps like by my feet.
Okay.
So like he'll crawl up and sleep right next to me at the pillow sometimes, but most of the time he's at my feet.
Yeah.
So
And that's another good thing too about having a dog sleep with you is
I'm like, it's gonna get
actually
whatever.
that's a little scary. A little side one, and I'll tell mine. That's the little scary thing too. Is sometimes when dogs react when you're sitting there and you don't hear anything.
Oh yeah.
That freaks you out because
Yeah.
they just react like they just look.
And
they have this look,
or
and
if
then
they bark at something.
Yeah.
there's nothing.
and you're
not
just
there,
sitting there,
yeah.
and then you're just like, okay, quiet down, because then you want to hear, and then when you don't hear anything, and they're still kind of like, and it's just like, what are you reacting to?
It's creepy.
Like that's creepy
No,
as
it
hell.
does. It creeps me out.
Because then it to me, it's like that scene in Signs when you hear the dog in the background barking, and then all of a sudden, like it just like hear the.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
But no, mine is more akin to the sleep paralysis. So that is where you're awake and you can't move. Is that okay? That's the definition.
When you first wake up, so what they say happens is that your mind wakes up, but your body kind of hasn't. Your brain hasn't fully kicked on to wake your body up.
That
so
has happened.
You're aware, but you can't move or do anything other than just look around because like your brain hasn't woken up the rest of your body. But you tend to see things in that state too, like a shadowy figure or something.
Straight up a Gerald's Game situation, like that movie.
Except for hers was real. But
Right.
Yeah.
And I hope and pray to God mine
Was not. Yeah.
Because that's happened on multiple occasions, and it often plays out the same way. It's this weird scenario where I fall asleep, and I go into a real deep sleep, and it's as if I'm being pushed through the bed, and I go into like an out-of-body experience where I go through the bed, through the floorboard, and out, and then I'm suddenly like hovering over like the house and the neighborhood.
You had an Insidious experience.
Cool.
You went to the further.
Yeah, well, I guess
sunken place or something.
Yes. It's this weird, and like it's like I'm flowing and flying through the air as easy as like a ghost in the night, and I'm going through different places and not even into other people's houses, but because it's all familiar areas and mainly around my house, and like I'm flying through the walls and coming like right up to my body, and even somewhat in an essence like going back into my normal self, and laying there only for it to subside and happen again, up until a point where the sensation of being like pressed upon and going through the bed is enough that it wakes me up out of the sleep. But then I immediately enter like a sleep paralysis mode where it's not even as if somebody's there, but it's as if like I am in my body and I cannot move. And and it's almost like I'm telling myself, you're asleep, you need to wake up. But it's me internally thinking that through my head, like, but if I can tell myself that, then I'm awake.
Yeah.
So why am I awake and I can't move? And it's so vivid and it feels so real that it's not until I've woken up out of the deep sleep, and I am awake the next day that I'm like, no, it feels so realistic that it happened.
And the crazy part is that they say like all of this happens within seconds because it doesn't really take your brain that long to wake your body up.
Yeah.
But because you are conscious and can't move, it feels like minutes. Like it's not just like
it's straight up.
It feels like you're like stuck like that for like an hour, but really it's just a few seconds.
It's the Inception twisting of time where it's like your mind is not that long. Yeah, it doesn't take that long to process, but to you it is. It's like a full day or night.
Just
very
stuck there.
Very creepy. Overall, I'm just like that's probably the scariest thing that's happened to me that I can recall.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened in a long time, and I hope me bringing this up on here doesn't cause it to happen again.
Oh no.
For any other amount of time. But that was our story time segment.
I liked it.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of, we've not really done that on this show before. I thought maybe, mix it up a little bit. We only have one story time segment this month. So, talk about
share spooky tale.
some spooky tales.
Yeah.
But hopefully you all enjoyed our spooky tales. Maybe you have your own to tell.
Yeah.
Your
We
own
wanna
tale to tell.
Thank you all for tuning in and watching. But obviously, if you have your own to share with us,
Yeah, I think they should send us that electronic mail, maybe.
ooh, that would be one way to do it.
I would really, you could leave it on Facebook if you want to send us a message or comment your story. But yeah, if you send it in an email, I would love to read a scary personal story.
Well, what is
over
that email, Keith?
Well, they could send it to RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
That scared me how good it
Chills.
was. Oh, gosh. Right kind of chills.
Yeah.
But no, yes.
Yeah, I
Email us.
I love getting stories like that. So let's,
Dude, that
Give
would
them
be
to us.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
watching, it doesn't
I
matter when.
put it in the comments. It even has a link, so you can just click the link in the
Nice.
comments, and it'll
Nice.
open your email, and you can send us something.
definitely read a scary story or two on the show if you
I won't,
give us one.
because I don't hardly ever get the emails.
Well,
but
you don't want to be scared yourself.
that's
You
true.
don't want to go to bed.
I might
Ooh,
wet myself.
That would be a problem. Maybe that would scare the gremlins away. But didn't that night?
What scared the gremlins away was I watched Gremlins 2
Yeah, that helps.
and just laughed because that movie's hilarious.
There you go.
And then I was not scared of them anymore.
That's right.
Does it hurt? Is it safe?
yeah, that's what it is. It says it's safe. That's it. Yes.
There's also another way to reach out, show your love and support, and that's like, share, subscribe. All of our social media icons right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and on Rumble. Appreciate all the love out there. Thank you all so much for tuning in. The big movie on the block next week is Killers of the Flower Moon. Our next
scary movie.
torture porn is the big daddy of them all, I think, in terms of really
Well,
going
I
out
think the one
there.
that really brought the term torture porn to.
At least spawned more like Human Centipede and whatnot and other films in that vein. But Hostel
Yeah.
by Mr. Eli Roth is our next torture porn movie
I
that
have
we're
not
going to be
seen
reviewing.
that movie probably since it came
Yeah.
out.
Agreed.
I've only
Yeah.
ever seen bits and pieces.
I was a teen when I saw
No,
that.
I saw it when the year it came out, and I think that's the only time I watched it because that was enough. But
Yeah.
I will watch it again.
So definitely, if there's one movie that fits the term torture porn this month, it'll be that one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Sean, you won't be joining us next
I
week.
won't.
Dang it.
Daggone it.
Dang it, Sean.
I know.
Can't do it. I got family stuff.
Oh,
Family first.
he's going to Europe to
We're going to a hostel.
kill. Yeah, he's going to kill. He's going to Europe to kill some Americans.
I'm going to get my drills ready.
There you go.
Got a new cobalt drill.
Nice.
It's an extra long bit.
Ooh,
Is
I'm
they
gonna
are they?
stick it
You
in
got the
somebody.
diamond tip like bits.
cuts right through. Bone
No, it'll
shattering
cut through
material.
whatever I put it through.
That's right. But no, I we got family first. That's what Halloween's all about.
Yeah.
The holidays and family. But no,
Family.
we do have next week's episode with those two reviews, and then of course, our Halloween special on Halloween.
on Halloween.
Ooh, on Halloween. But no, thank you all so much for tuning in, and tune in next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern on all the social media outlets. Thank you all so much. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
I still don't know who I am.
we'll find out.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.